Have you ever wanted to use a gun in Fire Emblem? Or buff up your characters with literal steroids? In Lord Tweed's Embrace of the Fog, this is possible, but why? Well, this is a Fire Emblem roguelike, which means it combines aspects from Fire Emblem such as its items, characters, and maps, with a roguelike's intense difficulty and random progression system. So every playthrough will have random items, units, and such. This might sound a little overwhelming, and this game gets insanely crazy, so here's how it works. This game's story starts off with your amnesiac mannequin protagonist called LT waking up in a huge mansion, which is our hub that we can move around in. The overworld doesn't have much yet when starting, but it does have an NPC blocking our path out of the mansion. That's because we need to summon our first unit before we start adventuring, which is where our first bit of randomness starts. You see, this game has more than 290 characters, which are pitched by members of the Fire Emblem community. My armor knight, Gorbat, for example, got pitched by a random wizard, and the makers of the game then put him in. There's also a lot of personal weapons for these characters. My archer Tanola has a 1-2 range shining bow, which is Harvey's resistance, and my monk Maudrost has a 2-ranged only spell called Vortex, which pulls enemies in. After summoning our 4 characters, we can start our run. There's still more to all these characters, but I'll show you once we start the adventure, where we immediately have a decision to make about which of these 3 enemies we want to fight, who all give us differing rewards when we beat them. Don't worry about these 2 mats yet, as it's just the first run. I just went with the FE7 Protag guy because he looks unique. Battling works a little bit different in this game. The biggest change we immediately see compared to mainline Fire Emblem is that hitting enemies or even killing them won't grant you any experience. There are also no animations, which is fair for 280 plus characters, but you'll see such cool things that you're gonna wish there were sometimes. Our first fight was fairly easy though, as the first maps as enemies were weaker than our squad. I also realized Maudrost's Vortex pulling in enemies is really strong. Most enemies on these maps cover each other. By which I mean, if you want to attack one enemy, you will probably just barely be in range of another, but this spell just pulls them outside of one of their comrades' range and into mine, completely messing up their tight formation. Now you only get experience from maps by beating them, and a small amount of gold. Though remember the FE7 guy I talked to before entering the map? Yeah, he gives us an extra reward. We can get something now called a stratagem, which gives buffs to your party, which are randomly selected. I had the option of more critical damage, something horribly specific I couldn't even use yet, and the buff to guns. Now, I might not have a gun yet, but I was sure hoping I would, so I went for that option thinking it's the funniest. And if this isn't enough, you can still pick up 1 more random item out of 5 after every map. Once you complete a map, you go back to the overworld. And there's more to do than just battling. If you go inside a tent, there are 2 things you can do. One of them is summoning yet another ally. I got Bard, an archer with poor stats, but to compensate he has passive skills that can buff up himself and surrounding allies in various ways. The other thing you can do is heal your team for 25% of their health. At the time I didn't realize, but all damage you take during the maps is permanent, while healers and healing items are scarce. So health is a very valuable resource. Another possibility in the overworld can be that you go to stores. Here you can buy experience for gold, potential stratagems again, and of course weapons like... Wait, I can buy a gun! Inflicts true damage, cooldown 2, can be used by any unit! Let's fucking go, guys! How did I know that I could get a gun? There's also a bunch of other unique stuff I kind of didn't bother to look at because I was just really excited to get a gun. I also think you understand why I'm sad about no animations now. Seeing my little archer girl with a shotgun would have been awesome, but guns are usable by every class. And there are more than 150 classes in this game, so I think you understand now. The last thing before we play the next map is that there are event tiles in which anything can happen. These can get really funny, but in my case I just got an energy ring. Now I hope you somewhat understand how the core gameplay loop works. There is one occasional exception. Well yes, I could have gone and done an easy fight or fun event here, but there is an assassin on the top left as well, and silly me on my first attempt didn't know what they did, so I tried it out. Big mistake. This is an elite fight. Extra difficult maps against strong enemies. There's also some story stuff going on. Apparently LT killed a guy and these 2 assassins are now out to get us. and dang they show by how difficult this map is. When an army that has only gotten a single level up and at this point not many members yet, doing something this difficult is not smart. When viewing the map, there are 3 problems for me already. One is that I have only 5 characters in a map where the game expects you to have 6. Another is that the bosses are incredibly tough with a very scary sounding skill. And the last is that my army of 5 units, which is already small, gets split up. So I only have 2 characters to beat one part of the map. To my surprise, I was initially doing fine on both bot and top because of an easy early kill. I also tried using a shotgun, which always deals 14 damage, but it's a heavy weapon, so I couldn't double with it. While in the south, I was doing alright initially because I proceeded very slow and carefully. Up until our reinforcements pulled up anyway. This game doesn't want you camping forever. It is mean and will spawn infinite reinforcements if you take too long. What doesn't help is these reinforcements are thieves who inflict poison on you, which makes you receive 2 extra damage similarly to how it works in Engage. Which doesn't sound bad, but remember, healing is scarce in this hack. Our only form of healing is through the protagonist LT, who has a skill that heals for 4 points, at the cost of only being usable twice per map, so you can run out really fast. Feeling the need to rush, I lured out a northern boss with Tanola, but the boss's skill is to literally make the other one warp behind you and attack. If that's not enough, the southern Gemini starts having aggressive AI the moment you get into the other one's range, so I had to end this map quickly. I haven't told you about combat art yet because they haven't been too relevant, but Bard, on top of his free buffs, also has a skill called Bloodletter, which gives him a free attack that turn. Which sounds broken, but he can only use it once every 5 turns, and I saved it for the boss. However, he's now at such low health that a single hit kills him, and I still need to kill the other Gemini to end the map, so he dies. The southern boss is very scary offensively with high speed and killer bow, but I dodged the crit and had the exact damage needed to kill. After watching this map, I want you to understand these elite maps are no joke and they can end your run at any moment. But they're still worth it because of the rewards. You get a little bit more experience than usual, but the biggest benefit to your cause in this case is getting a new combat art. Gemini Strike is a combat art that everyone who's still alive here gets, and it gives us a brave effect. This is immensely powerful and worth the challenge if our character still has health. In typical roguelike fashion, which means loading the worst possible option, I got a defend map right after this map, and I did survive a little longer because of Gemini Strike, but defending with little health is close to impossible, so I got sent back to the mansion where we first started. Now we are here, you can unlock features to make the game easier, like more experience, or getting the ability to revive a character at rest sites. But my run was so short, I don't quite have the required resources to make that happen. Thankfully now I got insight on how the game works and got lucky by summoning some strong characters in my next attempt, so I can tell you about the final part of the gameplay loop. After every 15 overworld actions, you're forced into an unskippable trial and boss fight, which you can choose between the left and right option on the overworld. A trial fight is basically just a tough Fire Emblem map with an even tougher boss that you're used to. On top of that, for the one I chose, this is also where I encountered the first healer in the game, who heals for a little but has a lot of range. Like I said though, my attempt here so far is crazy lucky. I drew not only Malachi, a ranged character with a lot of speed, but also the Champion's Belt, which increased all non-defensive stats by 2, so he had enough speed to double both a mercenary and dark mage. And that's not all to this guy, because when his health reaches lower than 50%, he just spawns a generic ally, which you can then use as a sacrificial lamb at no cost to serve as a lure or deal chip damage. This is the first time I get a good taste of the game's main philosophy. It's hard and keeps throwing crazier challenges your way, but the player with a bit of luck he gets such strong tools to handle the bullshit that gets thrown in your face. And bullshit this game will throw at you. The main boss of my Act 1 is a mage dragon with 35 resistance and AoE attacks. which he has alongside a skill that converts all damage to magic damage. You can only get rid of this skill by destroying 4 pillars on the map if you want to deal even remotely meaningful damage to him. Additionally, I hope you remember what I told you about reinforcements and taking your sweet time when I was talking about the elite maps, because everything still applies here. Reinforcements spawn fast, so you better beat this map fast. In my case, Molokai has a third function, as if this guy isn't versatile enough yet, which makes him attack allies to steal their affinity, and inflict them with a status effect that makes them count as beasts. His fourth function, called Deny, that boosts all beast allies as attack points by 5 this turn, synergizes very well with that. And especially with my Cavalier Forgotten, that has a skill that boosts his speed by 2 points in exchange for -1 defense. So hitting him makes it so he's not just able to double the boss, but also get extra 5 might from Molokai, boosting his damage by crazy amounts, so I could deliver the final blow to the boss with Tanola immediately after. And that is just what you need to beat Act 1 of this game. This game has 3 acts and even crazier synergies, items, and characters left to be discovered, but also crazy things to throw the players' way. So if you want to see more like this, subscribe and like to be notified when I go live and play this game or other Fire Emblem related things, or to support videos like this one.